for support you give us this week during the Silent Drive. And coming up now is Holistic Health Perspectives. And Holistic Health is brought to us by our members and Mariposa Market in Willits, a local resource for healthy eating since 1979, featuring organic produce and local products. Mariposa's Cafe offers snacks, pastries, to-go food items, all freshly made. Open daily at 8 a.m., Saturdays and Sundays at 9. Information at mariposamarket.com, Facebook, Instagram, and 459-9630. In addition, we are getting support today from our members and caretakers Garden Healing Sanctuary, offering weekend workshops in the healing arts. The upcoming Bee Magic workshop on June 11th and 12th covers basic beekeeping with bee shaman Jennifer Redke. More detail is at our website at www.caretakersgarden.org.
And thank you, Mariposa Market and Caretakers Garden, for your support. We really do appreciate that. And welcome to Holistic Health Perspectives with Mary Pat Palmer and Karen Uphoff. This show shares information on complementary medicine from different experts and disciplines so that our listeners can make informed choices about their own health care. And the information presented does not necessarily represent the views of this station. We also hope you'll see our Facebook page, which is Holistic Health Perspectives, and check us out, and thank you for listening.
Today we have with us, not in the studio, but on the line, a local lovely woman, Petra Schulte. She is a nutrition educator working with Safe Passage Family Resource Center in Fort Bragg, with funding from the Mendocino County Public Health through a California Department of Public Health SNAP-ED grant. SNAP-ED stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. She teaches a healthy weight management and prevent and reverse diabetes class once a year. Recently, Petra helped get the Market Match program to the Fort Bragg Farmers Market, where CalFresh recipients receive up to $15 extra in tokens per visit for fruits and vegetables when they use their CalFresh benefits at the market. Prior to her current work, Petra taught nutrition in the Fort Bragg School District for 10 years. And I'd like to welcome you to the show. Petra, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, yes.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah, our pleasure. And you do a lot of good work, and I know, but we want to ask you right away, what got you into health and nutrition in the first place?
Well, I was always interested in nutrition even when I was younger. Like I had my family change their fats from butter to olive oil when I was like 13, and I studied it in high school, and I sort of had a love-hate relationship with food. I was very addicted to food and also very interested in eating healthy food.
Oh, so that interest just kept going, and then you went on to, well, I know you kind of as a cook. Where did that come in?
Well, when you love food, and in Germany where I grew up, you didn't eat out as much, so you had to cook for yourself. And when I came to the U.S., I've always wanted to be a teacher, so I went back to school and got my teaching credential in Chico, at Chico State University. And then I had the chance to teach nutrition, which was my absolute dream come true. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
So how do you fund the nutrition classes in the community that you teach, Petra?
Yeah, because they are free.
I'm very lucky that we can offer them for free because public health pays for it.
Wonderful.
So it's this SNAP-ED grant, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Grant. It's federal grant, and it has been around for about 16 or 20 years, and I've worked under it for the last 11. And Terry Nieves brought it to Mendocino County, to Ukiah, and then I helped get it to the Fort Bragg Unified School District. And then after I got my teaching credential, they needed help in doing the nutrition education, so they hired me, which was great.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely your public money at work in a good way.
In a very good way. Yes.
So people can, they have to sign up, or is it a
Yeah,
drop-in?
they sign up, but I never limit how many people can attend the class. And with the Prevent and Reverse Diabetes class, on average, we had about 52 people.
Wow.
So it was a large group, and fortunately, we could use both conference rooms at the Mendocino Coast Clinic to accommodate the larger group. And then I had my husband help with the logistics, signing people up, because you have to just do a few little more things. You have to fill out a data card, an anonymous data card, each time you come and, sign in and stuff like that, so that, do this kind of protocol since it's a federal grant.
Right.
So the accountability, the participants contribute to the accountability of the program.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But this is wonderful. I mean, it's free. Who usually, what kind of, who shows up? Is it, younger people, older people?
I think it's more like older people, because especially with the diabetes class, it's already people who either are close to having diabetes, or they're pre-diabetic, or like with the healthy weight management class, they want to lose weight. But I think the more it gets into a medical condition, a chronic condition, people are more motivated, and I've wanted to work with people who actually already have chronic diseases for quite a while.
And so, well, have you seen changes through the classes?
Major changes. In a way, in the future, I'm hoping that we can actually do a mini study here on the coast where we collect more data beforehand. I'm not a medical professional, so I focus on the nutrition part, but it would be great to have people get a blood test, check their A1C, which is a test that shows what your average blood sugar is over a 2 or 3 months period, what their weight is, and such. So we didn't collect data, so I am relying on the data that people shared in the class, and there were quite a few success stories. For one thing, I think overall people lost more weight even than in the healthy weight management class.
Oh, wow.
Partially because it's so good to lose it for getting your getting rid of insulin resistance. So one of is to have a healthy weight, and then another one is exercise, and another one reducing saturated fats, or mostly eliminating them, because they kind of gum up the entry, the insulin, even though it's there with type 2 diabetics. The insulin has a hard time opening the cells. It's kind of, the insulin is the key to the cells, trying to get the glucose into the cells, but it's gummed up, and what gums it up is saturated fats. So some of the success stories I can share with you is they were like, especially two diabetic, they had been diabetics for a long time. One is Judy. Her A1C was, before the class, was 12.9, and to put that into perspective, normal is 5.7 and below. You're like 6.5 is you're diabetic already. Pre-diabetic is 5.7 to 6.4, and hers was 12.9. So on average, her fasting blood sugar in the morning was over 350. And she had visited the eye doctor, and they found that some of her fluid was, including blood, was getting into her eyes. And she was very close to losing her eyesight because her A1C is so high. So I didn't know who was, what I was telling blood participants is like, okay, here is the most ideal diet to reverse this diabetes, and studies have shown that you can, but it's up to you how much you will do, because it's sometimes challenging to change your diet. But Judy was very motivated, so in the fourth week she shared in class, and it was very interesting. We had to cram into one of the conference room because they needed the other room, and when she started sharing, all of a sudden the room went silent, because basically she was telling us that now that she had been on a whole plant food, low fat, including like no oils diet for about 2 weeks, her fasting blood sugar went from 350 to 250. So there was a drop of 100 points in 2 weeks' time. And that was while she was still on medication.
Wow.
And I mean, she was crying because literally when you're faced with possibly losing your eyesight due to the complications of diabetes, it's quite an overwhelming change, especially when a lot of organizations and also still medical professionals tell people that you can't reverse type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's incredible.
Yes.
I mean, we all know people who have reversed it, so why are they continuing to say that? It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame the medical profession. They're overworked. They don't really learn nutrition. And
True.
they learn how to give medication and how to operate, and that's kind of their parameter. I mean, and that's kind of like an overstatement, but they don't, unless they are interested themselves, like Dr. McDougall or Dr. Esselstyn, who reverses heart disease and severely affected patients, severely affected with heart disease, and T. Colin Campbell, who is a nutrition educator, they are not familiar with it. And unfortunately, fortunately, actually, people who attend the class, they want to change, and then they're taking it into their own hands. Though I do tell them, please work with your medical professional, because when you eat a whole plant food, low oil, low fat diet, your blood sugar will drop, and that could be dangerous because you will end up with hypoglycemia. And that's what actually happened to one other person who had been a diabetic for over 20 years, on oral medication for 20 years. He had tried the Atkins for diabetics approach and got very sick and had to stop that diet. And he completely got off insulin. And before he took the class, he was on about 50 to 80 units of insulin. At one point in his life, he was on 140 units a day. And so he changed his diet and got off the insulin, and that's very impressive. But he would wake up in the morning shaking, you see, and that's can be a sign of hypoglycemia. So I have always stressed in the class that you need to work with your physician because you need to lower your medication.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
In the same kind of gradation as your body is shifting, which...
Yeah, because your body will heal. Our bodies are made up to heal. It's just we have to, kind of like if we have a car, if we keep on putting the wrong fuel in it, it will sputter or it will stop. And so, and then, medications always have side effects. And so if we can do it with diet, it's so much better.
So some of the guidelines you give people are, the general guideline is plant-based diet. Maybe you can tell us some of the other main
And
points?
Could you sort of define the whole plant, what you
sure.
mean by that as a diet?
Yeah. Okay, so whole plants instead of, plant foods, foods derived from plants, but not refined plants or fractional plants. So let me maybe start with the whole part. The whole, instead of like drinking apple juice, you would eat an apple. Mm-hmm. Even if you cut up the apple, it's still a whole food, whole plant food. Mm-hmm. And so the same with grains. You don't eat refined grains like white flour. You would eat whole grains, like, for example, oatmeal. Most oatmeal actually has the germ removed, mm-hmm. and the germ has really good, healthy fats, vitamin E. And so I really, my emphasis is whole. So I even, recommend, most oatmeal is great. It's just I would prefer to have the germ with it because it has so many more other nutrients than just the outer layer and the what is it called now?
The hull?
The endosperm and the...
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, the endosperm. So.
Do you mean like oat groats?
There's also oat groats is fantastic, and I show participants that in the healthy weight management class how to cook it. You can just cook it in a crock pot or overnight, or you can throw it in a rice cooker and cook it.
And steel cut? What is the steel cut?
Is just it's chopped up oat groats. Whereas the oatmeal I was talking about, that's even more processed than the steel cut. The steel cut is very little processed. They take the germ out of the oats because of rolled oats because it will go rancid because it has the vitamin E in it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I get the I don't know if you can mention specific things.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Bob's Mill whole grain rolled oats. Yep. They are more expensive. That's the downside.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. And there's a different, but you can cook them like you do groats, or do you cook them differently?
You just cook them like oatmeal, and they cook as quickly as the other stuff. The oat groats, they give you a nuttier flavor, so then you actually chew it more, and that's actually really also very good for your friendly bacteria in your gut, like kind of feeding your gut bacteria when you eat oat groats, because more fiber will come down and more nutrients will come down into your gut area because it's not as chopped or ground up like let's say quick oats or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of steel cut, and it is easy to make them the night before. Let them sit overnight or put them in the crock pot, and it's very, very easy, very wonderful.
Yes,
and they're very creamy.
Yeah, and using intact grains is really wonderful. And that's what people used to do. They would eat some kind of gruel in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Porridge.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that the whole food, plant food, we're getting that idea.
Yeah, and then oil is refined too, you see. Okay. It's not olives anymore.
Right.
It's not avocados or sesame. So eat the whole nuts and seeds.
Right.
Even if you grind it up and eat it like as tahini, but eat the whole food rather than the oil is refined. It's a refined product. And really most nutritionists that I pay attention to, they really go, stay away from oils. They're high in fat. They have hardly any nutrients left in them because there's no fiber in it. Key to a good health is fiber.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear a lot is that, the brain is fat. So how do you talk to people about that?
Say that again. I couldn't quite hear
that.
The
brain is fat. It's primarily made up of fat.
System,
and the nervous system. Yeah, our transmission is through the fat cells, and our vitamin A is held by fat cells, and so on and so forth. How do you deal with those questions about it?
Or healthy fats.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still not quite sure if I understood your question, but let me see. So whole fats are so much healthier for you because you don't just extract the oil part of it, because everything comes plant foods come, well, animal foods too, they come in a package. Now, animal foods are totally devoid of dietary fiber. So that's one of the downsides of animal foods and one of the big pluses of plant foods. So you want to keep the oils and the fats the oils and the fiber connected, because then you have the phytochemicals, the antioxidants, and who knows what else there is in there that we haven't discovered yet, because we didn't always know that there were phytochemicals and antioxidants in foods.
So when you talk about it, you're not really advocating a low-fat diet so much as you are advocating getting the whole fat out of avocados, tahini, what have you, rather than a further refinement.
That's true. However, because often diabetes in that particular case comes with obesity or overweight, we do recommend a low-fat approach at first. And there are varying degrees of it. I myself, and I don't have diabetes, but I eat enough fats, but you don't need a whole bunch of fats. I mean, like, if you eat, I wouldn't recommend more than 20%, if that, calories from fats. So it doesn't have to be a lot. But they have, done studies for heart disease and also for diabetes. It's helpful to eat like an ounce of nuts and seeds, and definitely 1 tablespoon of flax meal a day. Yeah. That way you can get your omega-3 fatty acids. You don't need a lot. Like women need about 1.3 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids, and men about 1.6 or 1.7. So it's not a whole lot. And eating leafy greens, nuts and seeds, and also 1 tablespoon of flax meal a day gives you plenty.
So
so I'm not afraid of fats, but since part of the problem with is insulin resistance, and insulin resistance is caused by lack of exercise, by too much weight, and also the key, and that a lot of people don't know this, is saturated fats. And so you want to reduce your saturated fats, and one of the big keys to that is ideally eliminating dairy, and that's one of the harder things for people to do. So I say, try to reduce the animal foods that are not so important to you, and then if there are some that you just can't live without, then just eat some of it. And some people like Judy and Gary, who I talked about, who had been a diabetic for 20 years, they went gung-ho because they had so much at stake.
Yes. And what about cooking oils or fats? That would be my only question. Do you recommend not cooking at all with
Yeah,
fats?
no, I wouldn't. You see, so what like Dr. Neil Barnard and Dr. McDougall, and often their wives get involved, and it's not a sexist thing, but it's like, you got to make it palatable, and it has to taste good. So what they do is you can just saute with water or with vegetable broth, and you can get the kind of flavor of like onions too when they are what is that term called? They're kind of browning, and they get that
a little bit.
Yeah, they get glazed. So you can get that without using the oils. Now, I use coated pans, and for a while in my life, I threw them all out because I thought, well, there are too many toxins in them. But then I put it in perspective. The oil is so much more unhealthy for you in cooking with oils, because at high temperatures, oils also can turn into trans fats.
I saute a lot with water, but I find the only way I can do it successfully is in a cast iron pan.
Oh, well, so then do you, and you do it without the oil?
Yeah, I just keep adding water.
Good. Well, that's great.
But then after it's cooked, and it does have that kind of braised, flavor, if you let it cook all the way down, I like to drizzle olive oil on the top.
Well,
Because
you can do that a little bit, just not a whole bunch. Like
and not cooked.
People say, well, I eat really healthy, and there are many great videos that I show, and there really some of them are very funny, and it's like this registered dietitian, and he goes, oh yeah, I know, he's pretending to be in a restaurant. No, I eat healthy, I only eat salads. But then you go gluck, 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 and you put like 300-400 calories of oil on your salad, and it's no longer healthy, So if you just want a little bit of that flavor, like of olive oil or like sesame oil or so, for flavoring, I wouldn't recommend a whole lot,
And there's the whole, we're in kind of a coconut oil fad right
yes,
now.
I would, yeah.
And that, my understanding is that because it is so saturated, it can tolerate high heats. So I think people get confused by that.
Oh, yeah. No, coconut oil, 90% of the fat is saturated fat. It's that one, the highest one in saturated fat, higher than butter. And I would not recommend it. I have used it, and actually my cholesterol went up, and I'm basically a plant eater. I do eat, I'm not like 100%. I do eat some mussels once in a while. I have figured out a way to eat a little bit of abalone because I like the taste of it. I have a different philosophy. If I am willing to kill an animal, then I can eat it. And that's kind of my personal philosophy. That doesn't mean I eat abalone all the time. I do it very seldom. But coconut, when I started eating more like coconut yogurt, coconut milk, and this and that, it had an effect on my cholesterol.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, especially when people are extra high. But it's true that any saturated fat would affect the cholesterol, basically.
Yeah. And then besides the coconut oil, one of the biggest culprit is dairy, including milk. So just for people to be aware, and I think that one of the harder things is because cheese has casomorphine, it has actually a make me feel good kind of a little part of morphine in it. It is a little bit harder to kind of reduce it or give it up,
Well, and I do know people who struggle with weight loss, but are very, really have a hard time giving up cheeses at all.
Yeah. And there's hardly any replacement. There's Daiya cheese, but that's high in fat too. So it's really, to replace cheese with more fat is not necessarily the best. However, then at least you don't have the cholesterol and the hormones.
I found personally something really interesting. I had read that brie was very high in vitamin K, and I did find that when I was using brie, which is very, like a triple cream brie is very, very saturated, but it did very much reduce my interest in other cheeses. So I ate much less.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting to me. Again, maybe it's the morphine. My receptors were really happy and didn't need any more. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's what they call the French paradox. Why are the French not fatter when they eat so high in fat?
True.
But they eat smaller portions.
Right.
And if we can reduce, if we can't eliminate, let's reduce it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Good thoughts.
And then just really savor that morsel of this. Oh, and man, did I love brie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, do you go into sweeteners with people? It seems like an obvious thing, but that's not your target necessarily.
Well, sugar, for one thing, is a refined food. So I highly recommend, eliminating sugar and also white flour because, again, there is also an addictive part to it. And what helps to mention it is going by the glycemic index, though that should not be the first indicator. So to answer your question, I I personally use a little bit of liquid stevia extract, but basically I don't even use that when I bake. Like I use I make a cookie that where I use bananas. I use
fruit then. Fruit
peanut
is
butter.
fine. Okay.
Yeah, so I use fruit. I use peanut butter. So then I have a fatty substance with the and then I use rolled oats, and that's basically and a little bit of fresh ground flour, or you can use flour that you buy, but it's very simple and and then raisins. So it's very satisfying, and I think we can change our palate too. Instead of having everything super sweet to changing it more to that raisins give you so much sweetness that you can be satisfied with it. It just takes a little bit of effort in changing your palate. Though if you were to fast for 72 hours, you can change your palate drastically.
Quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have heard that with diabetics, one of the sort of side effects is that you taste sugar less. You can't, where one person might be very satisfied with a very small amount of sugar, that a diabetic often can no longer really get the taste of it without adding more.
I have not heard that, but that could make sense why some people then go more for that. However, I mean, it definitely is refined carbohydrates that are one of the culprits, but it's also the saturated fats, and our standard American diet is inundated with it.
Yes,
absolutely.
It is. Yeah. And I'm going to just break in here to let listeners know who might just be tuning in now that you're listening to KZYX in Philo, and this is Holistic Health Perspectives with Mary Pat Palmer and Karen Uphoff, and we are interviewing nutrition educator Petra Schulte. And we'll just keep going here. And
when's your next class, Petra?
Okay, so I'm going to teach the healthy weight management class, though I'm going to also emphasize a little bit more on cancer prevention because it kind of goes hand in hand with working phytonutrients into it, and I have great videos to show to people. It will be October 19th. It's on a Wednesday from 1 to 3 at Safe Passage Family Resource Center that's in Fort Bragg on Dana Street, just north of the high school. And I'm hoping that because they have an early release day, that also some students
wonderful.
Could attend, and maybe also hopefully their family, because really diabetes or any chronic disease is so linked to eating patterns. Well, we're all connected with that in our families. So if parents could attend or grandparents, there were quite a few people in the Prevent and Reverse Diabetes class. It was one family. It was the daughter who got her daughter involved in going, and her mom and dad, because her mom already had diabetes, and she was struggling with weight gain and could, head in the direction of diabetes. So she got her whole family involved.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And you're right, especially with food and cooking. I mean, it really is, whoever's living in one household, that's it.
They're not going to make 5 different meals.
No, and if somebody brings home something and it's in the fridge,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And food is so addictive. I mean, that's why they have not only, 12-step programs for alcoholics and narcotics, but they also have it for compulsive overeaters. And so it can be an addiction. And then our society is so inundated with food, but not just, the healthy food. Wherever you go, it's like, it's starting to get a little bit better, but, wherever you go, you can find food that is not health promoting. And when we are surrounded, when our environment is loaded with food that's really not as healthy for us, it's harder to change.
I have cousins who I dearly love, who I used to spend holidays with, and I would take a box of food with me because, as I put it in a very ungenerous way, they would mainline sugar. I mean, they would the sheer amount of sugar that they used in all their food was incredible. I mean, it was really hard to believe. So I'd take my box and they'd tease me, but I'd have my fresh vegetables and fresh fruit and all of that.
Wonderful.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that then you were doing role modeling too. It's like what I try to stay away from, and I've been guilty of guilt tripping people, but I try really not to do it anymore. And I think I'm getting better because people say, "Oh, you're just letting us. You're really, So I get the feedback I'm getting more is that I'm less judgmental and that I'm letting people know it's their choice and that I don't interfere because I don't have. I'm not in charge of anybody else's food anyway. Yeah. So. And now I forgot what I was going to say, but I think it's like if we can role model and bring other opportunities, other foods, and other awareness of how to prepare food to other people, then we can just by modeling we can lead the way and make a big change.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And do you do any food preparation in your classes, or is it impossible with that many? Okay.
With every class, and my husband says that's why they come.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So.
You have a facility. I actually also show them how to make it in the prevent and reverse diabetes class because I showed longer videos. I kind of slapped the food together and had them try it. In the healthy weight management class, I showed them more how I would cook it step by step. But because the prevent and reverse diabetes class was so big, I had to actually start cooking on the weekend to bring enough food so that everybody had a taste
Would have it, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You're busy.
I've been busy.
I know. And I can attest to the listeners out there that Petra's an excellent chef. So that's good. They actually get the idea that they can make something not only healthy, but that it tastes good.
That it tastes good.
Yeah. And then also what I did do is I ordered this a class book, and actually Jeff Stanford, I consulted him and Sid Garcia, what's his last name, Hillman, before, because I was like, oh gosh, diabetes, it's a medical condition. I knew how to deal with, how to get a healthy weight. But, so he suggested, well, have them read things, so I ordered a class set of Defeating Diabetes by Brenda Davis. She's a dietitian, registered dietitian, which, by the way, I am not. And so this book had lots of recipe in it. Now, she was still using oil, and which I don't agree with, but I told them always, omit the oil. And there were some great recipes in there that I'm now using in my own life. And if I buy one book and I get one good recipe, it's worth buying the book. Like gingered garbanzo beans, very satisfying, very quick.
Sounds great.
Quick to make. And a tip for our listeners here is that, not that I promote Amazon, but it's good to go to the local bookstore. However, you can find the Defeating Diabetes for 1 penny used plus shipping. So for $4 you can get it. And I would highly recommend, whether you have diabetes or not, but you're interested in eating healthier, that's a good book. It has great information. It was written in 2003, so it doesn't have as much of information about lipotoxicity, which is the newest realization that really there's too much fat in our cells, and they gum up the entry to our cells, so that the insulin actually gets less effective. And Dr. McDougall, one of my heroes in Santa Rosa, he said it's a normal reaction from the body, because we're supposed to be fit. We're supposed to be able to walk and run. If we're getting 5 or 10 pounds extra weight on us. Our bodies can tolerate it, but our bodies are then designed to make insulin less effective so that we don't get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why the insulin, which is a storage hormone, has a hard time getting the sugar and then also the extra saturated fats that we keep on feeding it into our cells. So it's actually a natural reaction that makes sense of the body to still be able to run and I mean, I don't want to go to prehistoric times, but to run away from a what is it, a tiger? What is it?
Anything.
Saber-toothed tiger?
Yeah. Anything. There were probably a lot of things to run from. Right.
But, you have to be mobile, and when we lose our mobility, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem when you get then put on insulin. Then you get more insulin. That means your body puts more fat into your fat cells, so people actually gain more weight when they're on insulin. And that snowballs, is the snowball effect. Then your body even gets more insulin resistant, and you cannot cure it that way. You can't cure it by going in. You can. You need to change your diet if you want to cure it, and you can cure type 2 diabetes. I asked Dr. McDougall in one of the advanced study weekends I attended, and I go, because I was like, why am I doing this? So can you cure type 2 diabetes? And he said, I have 100% success rate.
Oh yeah.
And so what are some particular plants that help in maintaining the blood sugar levels? What are some things that you can, plants that you can turn to for help with that?
Okay, so my motto is beans and greens. So beans give you tons of fiber. So, and I'm talking about not just necessarily beans, but legumes, so like lentils, beans, and dry peas. If you can incorporate them more into your diet, and actually then possibly replace some of the meat and other animal foods and cheese, that you are eating, then you are not only getting less cholesterol, less saturated fat, you're getting tons of fiber, tons of phytochemicals, antioxidants. Your body can heal, and you're not getting a whole bunch of, you get calories, but not, where you can lose, actually, by adding more beans to your diet, people lose weight.
Yeah, the fiber and...
Yeah, and then the greens are extremely good because you get the micronutrients that, like Dr. Furman and in his book, The End of Diabetes, really promotes. You need to feed your cells with nutrients.
Yeah, it's the micronutrients often people aren't getting.
Exactly, the micronutrients.
Yeah, the cells are starving.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you want to eat more because you can feel that you need something else.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. We're going to keep going, of course, but Petra, I wanted to ask what why don't you give your website and, contact information which is on the site so that people can...
Okay, so it's whole, as of WHOLE, plantfoods.info. So kind of like what I'm hoping people eat more, whole plant foods. .info. And class materials are on there, so you look under the tab classes, the information for the healthy weight management classes on there, for prevent and reverse diabetes. I need to add 2 more class sessions. So for people who can't take the class, or because I only teach 2 classes a year, one the prevent and reverse diabetes class and more in the springtime, and in the fall the healthy weight management class with more emphasis also in preventing cancer, and prevent and reverse diabetes more combined with also preventing heart disease. You can, with one diet fits all kind of thing. So you can go there and find class information. And you can contact me. There is a contact button. I'm more than happy to talk to people. I can't spend a huge amount individually because I do like working part-time. Like, I do like to hike. I like to, like, this morning my husband and I got seaweed from the ocean. And, like, I love to, do fun things.
Of course.
I mean, it's fun to work with people on reversing their diabetes and that they lose weight and become healthy and are more energetic. It's just I also like to do other things, like visit my grandkids.
Well, also,
of course.
how long are the classes? I mean, you teach one of these...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They're generally 8 weeks.
Okay,
and
great.
I have found
great.
that I think that really, really helps.
Yep.
Because it takes a while. For one thing, some people, at first they go, what? Saturated fats? I thought it was the sugar. I thought, like my doctor has told me, stay away from the carbohydrates. And so there is we need time to adjust. And then what we experience, especially in the Prevent and Reverse Diabetes class, then people come up with these success stories, and it is so powerful. Even for me, I was like in awe when, like, for example, somebody like Bob in the 7th class, he got up and he said he had seen his doctor, and his doctor said he got a clean bill of health. Now, he wasn't diabetic, but he had started with the healthy weight management class. He had wanted to lose some weight. And in this, from January 19th, when we started the healthy weight management class, till May 16th, when he shared this, he had gotten off the following medications. He got off a gout medication, hypertension medication, anxiety medication, high blood pressure medication, got off medication for constipation. There's no way you will have constipation when you're on a whole plant food diet. And they cut his arthritis medication in half, and his blood pressure was down to 80.
It's great. Now, that's a beautiful example.
Yeah,
Really.
And it's like, wow, that inspires people.
Yes.
It inspires me. And there was another woman, and you see, some people are shy, so I don't know everybody's stories, and that's the only downside when you have a bigger class. I don't get to know people as much as when I have a smaller class. But there was one person we celebrated at the Stanford Inn. It's all plant food there, and there was a person, Mindy, who then during dinner shared that, she reduced her fasting blood pressure. She wished it had gone under 100, but I bet possibly by now it's below 100. It was, she had gone to the doctor, so she sent this information to me after the dinner, but it was she went from fasting blood sugar from 135 to 106. She lost 15 pounds in the in 8 weeks, but she reduced her triglycerides from 248 to 168. That's an 80-point drop. Right. And they were going to put her on triglyceride medication, and she no longer needs to do that. But one thing she shared at dinner with me that kind of blew me away, she said she had this unexplained swelling in her hand for years. And it rendered her hands not useless necessarily, but she couldn't use her hands very well because it was, the way she showed it was about 1.5 inches higher than normal. And she had gone to 6 medical doctors who had run tests but couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. Well, she followed my advice, which is not really mine because I'm just listening to these doctors and dietitians and educated myself on nutrition and have this passion for nutrition. Well, she had stopped the dairy and lowered her fat intake, and 2 weeks into eating that food, the whole plant food, low-fat diet, her swelling in her hand had disappeared.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
It makes me want to run out and get Sagdal. with the lentils and the spinach. I
Oh,
mean, I'm
yes.
building up this great appetite for to go
Yes.
home and make
beans.
some sagdal, right?
Yes,
Beans and
yes, yes.
greens.
And even Trader Joe's now has a version of that, I think. They have like well, no, it's maybe not made, it's with garbanzo beans, so that might not
yeah.
be the dish you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Well, I love lentils. I'm
Oh,
a
lentils
big
are so
lentil
awesome,
fan.
and they're so
Yeah.
easy to cook. You don't
And
have
they
to
are.
soak them. Just
Right.
throw them in, and they make everything creamy. And that's another thing I learned with some of the recipes we got. There was this awesome recipe. What it was called navy bean, and you can use you can substitute them with any white beans like
Cannellini.
northern white or the cannellini beans.
Yep.
So it was navy bean mushroom soup, and the navy beans you pureed them. And they made it creamy, and that's, I think, what a lot of people look for, because it's this comfort food. It was this creamy mushroom soup and so delicious. And which brings me to one topic I'd like to address, and that was I would like to give your listeners some other websites besides my own. So mine is wholeplantfoods.info. Then there is drmcdougal.com, but it's drmcdougal.com. But if you Google Dr. McDougall, it should come up. Then there is, and he has a wealth of information on his website. Under education, you can look at his free program. So because he has this 10-day program that's incredible, he takes people off medication left and right within the first few days. So if it's hard for you to do on your own, you might want to check that out. But it's pricier. But he has this free McDougall program, too. He has the Dr. McDougall coloring picture book, which I think is great, where it shows you what foods, stoplight foods, green light foods, and yellow light foods. He has tons of recipes, like 1,000, up to 1,000 recipes. He has videos you can see, free podcasts, online webinars. It's all for free, which is really wonderful. And then, so that's one. Then PCRM.org, and that's for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They are an organization of 12,000 physicians and 50,000 member strong organization that does incredible nutrition education. I was lucky to be able to participate in one of their trainings in Washington, D.C. several years ago. And they have these classes and lots of recipes. You can get you can do a 21-day vegan kickstart where they send recipes and encouraging remarks from celebrities to your cell phone, and it's all for free. And then also another one is nutritionfacts.org. It's Dr. Greger and a team of, I think, maybe 10 or 12 people work on maintaining this website where you can look up topics, health topics, and find these short videos. I would highly recommend for people to look up the health topic diabetes and check out videos on lipotoxicity. It's also sometimes called, intramyocellular, what is it? What's the term again? Dr. Neil Barnard uses that a lot. It's when you have too much fat in your cells, and it affects your mitochondria, actually.
Oh, yeah. I forget what that's called. And they can't breathe, basically. They don't...
Yeah, it really has a negative effect on your cells. So you can, and that's one thing that, for example, Bob told me, because I called him yesterday and I said, "So, how are you doing?" He's still on it. He is talking to his son, and that's what's so exciting to me. I'm hoping that people who attend my classes then spend time to educate other people and refer them to these resources I give them, because I didn't come up with this. I'm not a researcher, but I'm a nutrition educator, so I'm educating people on educating other people. So that they go to these websites. So he's talking to his son who has diabetes severely, and his son is starting to change his diet. It's because Bob now is researching things on these different websites that I give them, and I showed them the videos, and he is getting more comfortable with the information, and he has seen the results on himself, that he has gotten off more than 5 medications, and that he has a clean bill of health, and he lost enough weight that he's now at an optimum health, optimum weight, and has plenty of energy. So
yeah, and
so it's very exciting.
It is very exciting, and there's nothing better than when people do it and they do experience that change, because that embodies it, and then they've got it. You never forget that. It's there.
Yeah, and that's what I asked people in the last class, and I said, okay, raise your hand if you know now how to reverse type 2 diabetes. They all raised their hands.
That's great.
And that was a big success for me as a teacher, because they might not all do it gung-ho. I say gung-ho, like 100% of like a whole plant food, low-fat diet. But a lot of them have made changes. And they all, even if they haven't done anything, if they just are there in the class to get the information, they know how to do it. And that's key, because we are the ones who are putting the food in our mouths. And so we are the director of our well-being, and we can change our destiny.
Yes, and it's important to feel empowered.
Exactly.
What was the doctor who wrote the other word for the lipid toxicity, the intercellular?
Okay, so that's Dr. Neil Barnard.
Okay.
And then also Dr. Furman has a great book called The End of Diabetes. He also has a book out now, The End of Heart Disease. And you see, heart disease, there were people in there who were struggling with heart disease, and I think I'm going to promote the Prevent and Reverse Diabetes class as a combo of diabetes and heart disease.
Right.
Because really all
sense.
the chronic diseases are being helped by a whole plant food, low-fat approach, and with some nuances. Like McDougall has a much lower fat approach versus Dr. Furman. He likes to add more nuts and seeds in it, and so it can, people can vary what works well for them.
Yeah, and I mean, people are different in their metabolism, their detox pathways, and their body's needs. I mean, there are people who need a little more fat than others. And,
exactly. And if you get it more from healthier sources, then it really your health benefits. And I wouldn't worry too much about the omega-3 fatty acids as long as you eat 1 tablespoon of ground flax meal. Just make sure you put it in the refrigerator or freezer, because it spoils quickly because it's an unsaturated fat.
It's very unstable. So I actually, when I talk to people, I do ask them to grind the flax seeds themselves.
Yes, I do that myself. Right away. I do it every day. I have a little grinder, and I just grind it just for that day. Right. And I don't even leave it in there.
No.
And give some to my dog.
Yeah. And I mean, I cheat, but I put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
better
why
than not.
Even flax oil smells a little rancid, and that's why it's useless after a while, and it has to be in a really dark container. Yeah. Blah blah blah. So the flax meal is a much better approach, or flax seeds. Really. I'm glad you pointed that out, Mary, Pat. So grinding flax seeds fresh is the way to go.
Yeah, they taste good too.
Yeah.
Well, Petra, we have to say goodbye. It's the end of the show. It was great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, go to
Thanks so much.
wholeplantfoods.info, and there's some good recipes there too.
Yeah, and they can also, I'll be in touch with them. I will take during the summer I'm not always there. So if I don't respond to emails, but in the next few weeks people can email me and I can give them my phone number too. I mean, they could call me. My number is 937-4704.
Thank you so much, Petra.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that wraps up another holistic